it will create a new instance and it will have the default 2 products that we create here. And adding this service as singleton, what means it means that it will create an instance of this service that would be kept alive until the application shuts down. So if we start right now this application, right now it will also create an instance of this seeder service, and as long as this console stays open, so as long as the application runs, basically that instance would be the same. No matter how many calls we are doing, it will be always the same. And this means that when we add a new product to the list, when we make another request, the other product will be basically there. So that's why we added this service as singleton, and also I briefly explained there, and also now what's the difference between singleton and scoped, which from my point of view is very, very important to understand. Usually we don't add any singleton services unless there are services that we really need to keep running as long as the application runs. But usually most services that will add are scoped, which means that a new instance of that service will be created for each request that comes in. And this is very, very important with Entity Framework Core for instance, when we'll go for that. Now, going back to the controllers, we also added this products controller, and we've implemented the basic CRUD operations on this controller. As you can see, when we in the constructor of this controller, we injected the iSeeder service that we previously registered. So this means that everywhere in the controller we can now use the seeder to get the list of products. For instance, here where we want to get all products, we just use the service get all products and then return the result from the service. Then, for instance, when we want to get a product by ID, once again we get the list of products via the service. Then we look up the product with a specific ID. If that product is not found, we return not found. If the product is found, then we return the 200 OK and the product that was requested. Then when we create a product, similarly we just use the seeder to add a product to it. And then if the add result is not OK, so if we receive false, then what it will happen, we will say that okay, this was a bad request, the product wasn't added. We haven't implemented any real exception handling and validation and so on. That's something that we will tackle at some point, but for now we'll go with this hard-coded message. But if everything goes okay, then we return a 201 created, which is typical for REST APIs. And then in this created, we have to specify the URI through which the newly added product would be available, and this URI will be added by ASP .NET Core as a location header in the response headers, which is once again the standard procedure for REST APIs. And of course, we also returned the product that was just added. Then if we want to update a product, once again, we will use the seeder and say to the seeder, okay, we want to update the product with this ID, and here is the updated version. Then the seeder will handle the update itself, and it will simply return us the update result. If it is on true, then it means that everything is okay. If the result is false, then it means that something failed and it's not okay. So if the updated result is true, of course, we return 200 OK, but if not, we return once again this bad request. Then we have the delete product, and here in this case, once again, we just need the ID of the product that we want to delete, and then we simply use the seeder service that will delete the product from the list. Once again, if the result is true, then we return OK. If the result is false, we return a bad request. And basically that's it. That's what we have implemented last time out. So now I would like to continue from here. And one thing that we will notice if I bring up Postman, and here I have already a history of the requests that I did. And for instance, if I go here on this put or post method, this was used basically to add a new product. And we see here, for instance, that what we did is, okay, we needed to add a full product, a full-fledged product with all the necessary properties. Of course, the supplier and the photo URL, we put them on null. But the bad part about this is that we also added this ID. Now, the problem with this is that IDs normally should not go outside our application. So the clients basically that will create new products, they shouldn't be responsible, or they shouldn't try to add a product with a specified ID, because generating the ID for the product is usually the thing or one thing that we have to do on our own in our API. And if we use Entity Framework Core, when we add a new product to the database, it kind of adds automatically the ID of the product. So what I wanted to point out here is that according to REST best practices and also to security best practices, is that when clients make requests, especially post or put, or so to create resources or to update resources, it's important for that we only gather the data that we really need to create a new product in this case. And for instance, the ID in this case would surely not be required at all. And since we haven't implemented the idea of supplier or photo URL, then we also wouldn't need those to be posted. So this is when we would basically need two types of models. So we have on one side our domain model, which is our product. And if we go to our models and to product, and we see it has this kind of properties. But according to what we have just discussed, when a client, so when a front-end application wants to create a new product, we don't want the client to try to define a certain ID. And for our purposes, we don't want the client to define the supplier or to define the photo URL. These are properties or things that we would have to decide or implement ourselves in the API. So in this case, what we would need is a different model specific for handling or specific for interacting with the UI, or in this case with the front-end application that makes the request. And usually there is a pattern, I would say, or a best practice for this, and it is to use the so-called DTOs, or data transfer objects. And DTOs, as said, are nothing else than the version of our domain model that we want to publicly expose in our API responses. And let's see how to implement it. Actually, from a technical point of view, it's really nothing very difficult. It's just another just a few other domain models or few other models that we have to add, but that actually belong, let's say, more to our API, to our application itself, not to the domain. And that's why in our Twitch eShop API project, we will create a new folder that is called DTOs. Add new folder, and it should be called DTOs. And in this folder, we will add, well, of course, our DTOs. And let's start with the product DTO. So we'll add a new, where it is, class. And we'll call this class so that we know that it is a DTO. Let's call it right now product DTO. Now, as said, a good thing about this product DTO is that it's a very simple class, basically. And in a certain way, it has to kind of reflect what we have in this product, but simply exclude all the properties that we actually don't want to be exposed right now. So in this case, we have, let's start with the scenario where we just want to have, where we want to make a post request. So the client, the front end, wants basically to add a new resource or a new product. And in this case, we would need the name, description, and the price. Probably, as I said, we really don't want to have an ID there. We don't want to have a supplier, and we don't want to have a photo URL. So if we go back to our product DTO class, let's start doing it. We're adding some properties, so it will be right now public string name. And I don't want to simply copy paste from there. That's something that I wouldn't like to encourage. Although at some points I may copy paste some code where it is more to write. Then we need a description and a price that is of type double. So let's go to the product and public string description. And we would have then public double price. So yeah, that's right now our product DTO. So as said, nothing really uber fancy, but it's simply a product DTO that we have there, and now we can simply use it to interact with or that the front ends, the clients that make the request, should always basically interact with this product DTO. Now let's try to implement this DTO in our controller, and to check exactly how we could do that. And let's start with the get all. So right now we have here a get all products, but also when we want to return the products, we also want to return the products first of all without ID. And this is why we basically need to create a new product DTO to map the properties from the products, and well, then return, or simply return, the new list of products DTO instead of the list of products that we get here. And again, there might be some tools or libraries that would help us to achieve that, but right now I would like to simply code this by ourselves to really understand what happens behind and what exactly is that we want to achieve. And of course later we'll probably also change this, and we'll add a library that would handle these transitions from product to product DTO for us. But for now, let's create first. What we need is here a list of product DTO, and of course we will probably need to add a using statement up there. Okay. Let's call it products, and let's initialize it to new empty list of product DTO. Sorry, here. Okay, although let's products DTO. Let's name it products DTO because this is the list of DTOs. And then what we have, what we can do is have another variable. Which will hold all the products, and this variable we call products, and this would be equal to setter get all products. Very well. And right now we have this list of products, and we have this list of products DTO. So right now what we can do is to simply create a new for each, and here for each product in products. Let me check. So what we want to do is to go through all the list of products that we received from the seeder, and based on the information in each product, we want to generate a product DTO and add it to this products DTO list. So let's create here right now a new var DTO equals new product DTO, and maybe we can just already specify the properties. And here what we need first is the name. Okay, sorry for one thing. Let's make it just normal, because we have to assign it to a variable. And here we can say DTO.name equals product.name. Okay, then we would say DTO. What do we still have here? Description equals product description, and of course DTO price equals product.price. So yeah, that's basically it. We have created a new DTO, and what we do right now is simply say products DTO add. We want to add a new item to this collection, and we want to add the DTO. Okay, so right now this means that by the time we'll exit this for each loop, this products DTO list will be populated with products that we have transformed from what we have received from the seeder, and then what we do here is simply we can return that products DTO list. Okay, and right now we can also test it. So let's run it to see exactly what happens. So it takes just a little bit of time, and here we want to make a GET request to /API/products, which should be okay. Just a few more seconds so that our application is fully started, and sending the request. And we see that what we have received is the two products, but we only have received this name, description, and price. So no ID, no supplier, no photo URL. So I guess that well, this is what we expected. So we can go then one step further and try to use the DTOs also in the other parts of this controller. So in other actions. Now, when we get product by ID, we have to do something similar like here, but in this case we won't have a list because we can just get the product that we actually need. And what we can do here, we can say that first of all we get the product that we need. If the product is not, so if the product was not found, then we return a not found, so this is okay. And after that if statement, we can then implement our logic and say var product DTO equals new product DTO, and then we can simply do the mappings. So we have product DTO. Sorry for the typos. And once again, we want the name, and it would be equal to product.name. What do we want further? We want the product.description, and then this would be product DTO description would be product.description, and product DTO.price would be product.price. So that's it, and what we will return instead is not the product, but the product DTO. So that would be it. And I guess okay, some typos here. It's okay right now. Good. I assume this action would also work. So right now I'm going further, and I guess we'll do a full-fledged test when we implement also the other methods. Now, when it comes to the methods or to the actions, the controller actions that actually perform some modifications on our entities, like creating a new entity or updating an entity, in this case a product, of course we would have to change some more things there. And the first thing that we would need to change is that when the request comes in, from the body of the request, we don't want to get a product anymore, but we want to get a product DTO instead. And what we would have to basically do this in this case, so we have to remember the product DTO doesn't have, for instance, an ID. But what we could do in this case is before we add the product, of course we must implement our logic, and our logic is that okay, we have to transform in this time the other way around. So we have to transform a product DTO into a product. In this case, let's create a new variable called product, and this would be equal to new product. And then we'll have product.name. Let's first map the properties that we also have in the product DTO. Let's also change the name of this incoming parameter, because it's not a product anymore, but it's a product DTO. So product name would be equal product DTO dot name. Product dot description would equal product DTO dot description, and product dot price would equal this product DTO dot price. And now the question: what do we do right now about the missing properties? Because we don't have an ID in the product DTO, and we don't have a supplier, and we don't have a photo URL. And this is the place that, this exactly is, the scenario in which we have to think about, okay, how do we handle this by ourselves? Now, for the ID, as I said, when we will have Entity Framework Core, we wouldn't have to care about it, because Entity Framework Core would add an ID to our product. But in this case, we don't yet have Entity Framework Core. So let's try to keep track. We had a product with ID 1, we had a product with ID 2. In this case, in our controller, I would say that, okay, product dot ID. So I add the ID, and product dot supplier, I would say, is a new supplier. But for the supplier, I don't bother right now to create new properties. And product dot I don't know, photo URL would be equal to HTTPS, and let's Twitch TV. So that would be then the photo URL. So once again, the idea of this entire DTO is that for the client, we just expose a product DTO, and basically we oblige the client that makes the request to provide us with that specific information. But for all the other information is something that we think of ourselves. And right now it's very simple, but when our API gets more and more complex, in this step we'll basically maybe look in the database for a supplier, make some validations on the supplier, and then add it to this product. For the photo URL, we would probably upload the photo to something like a storage, like Azure Blob Storage. We would get the URL from there and put it or define it as a photo URL for that specific product. So this might imply from us that we will use some other services, or that we implement some other logic that we generate all the other information. But it's important that that is information that the client doesn't need to supply. And indeed, in that case, we just need to provide to the client information. You have to provide only this type of information. So yeah, now once we have this product, what we can do is, okay, the other part can also remain the same. So we use the seeder and add the product to the list. Once again, if something failed, then we return a bad request. If it succeeded, we return a 201 created, and we put the URI in the location header. Okay, for updating a product, it's again exactly the same thing. It's product DTO that we expect from the body, and here we change also the name of this variable to update product DTO, so that we know that it's actually the DTO that we get as an input parameter to this method. And here, once again, before we update the product, because before we use the seeder to update the product, what we have to do is, well, basically transform this product DTO into a full-fledged product. And let's see how we can do that. Product. Let's updated product DTO also here. So we can create a new var updated product equals new product. Okay, and now what we can do also is first of all we can well, in this case also the seeder service we might need to make theoretically some changes there, but I don't think I'll bother necessarily to do the changes right now, because I just want to get this idea of mapping basically DTOs to domain models. But the idea is that if we want to update the product, we know that the product already exists. And here this means that it has an ID, but the ID we get it from the URL, so or from the endpoint that the client makes the request to, and we can get it as an input parameter. So in this case, we know that here updated product ID would be exactly the same as the ID that we get from the URL, and then here updated product dot name it would be equal to updated product DTO dot name. Updated product dot description would be equal to updated product DTO dot description. And we know that for the supplier we don't have to care right now. So right now we have the new product. We have made sure that we have used the correct ID here, so that we can look up that product in the list and make the update. And in this case, it means that we can just use the seeder and send the information. I want you to update a product for this ID, and in this case, let's here put only product. Updated product. Okay, so this should be it. And in this case, I guess that also for this seeder update product, we can do some changes, because in the product that we map here internally in our application, we know the ID. So it's not something that we would have to pass into the method, because the product, the updated product that we sent to this method would already contain the correct ID. So let's go to the updated product method to see exactly how it was implemented. So it was here, first we look in the list and for that specific ID, but we said we don't need this ID anymore, and instead of using the variable that we used previously, what we do now is updated product.id, because we know we would have the correct ID. Now the logic itself really again is not something that we would implement like for real, and it surely will change totally when we'll have a persistent store, a database. But for right now, what we do is basically, if we found a product, we just remove it and we add the updated version of the product to that list. So basically that's it. But now, since this service implements an interface, right now this contract to this interface is not satisfied anymore. So we will have to go to the iSeeder interface, and here in the update product method, we say that okay, we don't need the ID anymore right now. And yeah, we shouldn't have any errors right now. And the other thing that we need to change is then, of course, just send in the updated product, and that should be it. So the functionality would be again exactly the same. Now right now, for instance, we still have this delete method, and for this delete method it's actually easy, because in this case we just get the ID and we say to the seeder, delete the product with the ID that we just got. So here for the delete, we don't really need to use that DTO. And that would be it for now for this DTO. So if we the next step that we should do, let's try to test this. So we'll run the application. Once again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to write in the chat. or if you want to add something, or you think that something is not clear enough, I really would appreciate each comment that you make, each question that you have, because really my goal here with these streams is to try to help you, to try to teach you some new things, or really to try to make you, or to understand better how ASP.NET Core APIs should work. And it makes me really happy to know that you have questions, and that after this stream, well, you left with some new things that you have learned. So yeah, let's go ahead and try out these methods again. So let's do a get. We have this get for a list of products, and we see that, okay, in this case we just have these three properties as it was before, and this is okay, this is expected. Then if we want to get only one product, let's see if it works. I would expect that it would return only again only these three properties, sorry. And yeah, indeed it returned only that three properties. And let's also try post. So we want to create a new product. We made a post request, then we have to specify a body. And you see that previously we specified a full-fledged product, but in this case, what we did is, okay, we just provided these three points of information. And if we click send, let's see what the result would be. It was 201 created. And if we look into the headers, let's look into the headers. We see this location header, and we see here that this is the URI, but something didn't went well. I think I know why. I didn't put the string interpolation sign right there. But let's don't bother it with this right now. Then what we want to also do is well, create. So let's get the list of all the products once again, and there should be three products. In this case, two products should be identical. Okay. We have to go to the body. Sorry. So okay, it created more products. So I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe I think we hit the request several times, I guess. Yeah, but the idea is that the product was added. It was my bad at first that I didn't change anything here, so that we cannot see exactly which the real product is. But the main idea is that, well, it seems to work. Also this update product and the delete product, of course, well, we haven't changed anything there, so it should still work. So yeah, this means that basically our method works, or using the DTO works. Now, however, I want to complicate things right now once a bit, because it's not me that really complicates things, but it's usually the way that APIs behave and how they are supposed to work. Now, the idea is that let's think a little bit as the client. So when I make a request to get a product, I want to get all the information about that product that is really important for me as the client. In this case, for me as the client, it would be important to get the photo URL, because I would like to display a photo of that product, or maybe a gallery of photos for a certain product. And I would also like to have the supplier, because maybe in my eShop frontend that I might build with Angular or whatever else, there I would probably need to know, okay, who supplies the product, because the customer or customers usually want to know that. So this means that when I make GET requests, me as a client, to be able to function correctly, I would expect to get this type of information. But on the other hand, when I create a product, I really don't want to take care about the photo URLs and about suppliers. This is something that the backend, the API, should do. So in this case, it means that me as a client application, I'm basically working with two versions of that product model. It's one version for the GET, where I want to have the supplier and the photo URL, and one for the put or the post, where I really don't want, or I don't need to provide the supplier and the photo URL, because it will be the API, the backend, that will handle this. So in this case, we see that, okay, having one product DTO might actually not help very much further, because usually when we implement APIs, we have to handle this type of scenarios, because usually the information that the client's needs contains a certain data set or a set of properties, but the information that the client needs to provide when it creates or updates instances is another data set or another set of properties. And that's why usually when we work with product with DTOs, we have actually a DTO for each type of version that we need to interact the client with. So for instance, what we would need here is we have this product DTO that has this name, a description, and a price. And this would describe, as we discussed earlier, a DTO that a client would need to create a new product or to update a product. So in this case, we should probably change this name of this class from product DTO, and let's rename it, and we'll change that to product put post DTO. And this means that here we say yes, because we want to update also the name of the class, not only the file. So this means that we would use this DTO in scenarios where clients want to add a new product or update a product. Of course, we would have to make some changes in code there, but before we go back to the controller, let's create another DTO, and this is again a new class, and this class would be called product get DTO, and let's add it. Okay, and this class, so once again in this case, we want to when a client makes a GET request, we want to provide all the information from a product except the ID. The ID is something that we don't want to provide in the body, because they should be aware of the IDs probably when they make requests. Okay, so in this case, what we usually do, although I just wanted to underline this right now is only for our scenario, because IDs are something that in certain scenarios you have to provide, because otherwise the client wouldn't be to which ID to make a request to get only one product, for instance. So yeah, in production application, IDs are sometimes leaked out, but there are different strategies there. In some cases you might basically maybe use GUIDs, or maybe transform the IDs in some way, or have a service that handles this type of things, whatever. There are different scenarios that could be employed. But just for the sake of our demonstration right now, let's create a product get DTO that doesn't have an ID. And here I would say that we have so we will have sorry public string name. We would have a public string description. We would have a public decimal price. We would have a public supplier, and it would be the properties name would be also supplier. Of course, we will need to add a using statement here. So let's do it. Okay, it was added, as you see here. Of course, it's set, not 2 times get. Okay, good. And we need a string, public string, and it will be a photo URL. Okay, good. So in this case, we have this type of information, and right now we have two different DTOs. we have a DTO that we use for put and posts, and we have a DTO that we use for gets. And let's go back to the controller and try to implement some changes here. And let's take again the actions one by one. So in this case, what we will get is that, okay, we have the get all, but we have here a list of product put post DTO, which is not correct anymore, because here we want to have a list of product get DTO. So the DTO that we usually use for get requests, let's change it also here, product get DTO. Then we get all the products, and here we create a new product get DTO instead of product put post, and here we have the name, the description. Something is not quite okay here. Let me check. Is the double product price, and here it's oh, here is double. Yeah, it's double on the product. Okay, is that so? That is strange. Yeah, it's double. Okay, let's make it double then. It's in the products get DTO, and we say it's double. Okay, so let's go back to the controller. So we add the price, but in this case we also want to add to the DTO not the price but the supplier, and this would be equal to product. Right now all our suppliers are null, so we don't actually create the suppliers when we create the product. And what we also have to add here is the photo URL, and this would be from the product.photo URL. Okay, and of course then we add it to the list, and it will return then only the product get DTO. Now here get product by ID, it's actually the same thing. We get the product from the seeder, so that is the real product that represents our domain model. We check that it is not null. If it is null, then we simply return not found, because the product was not found. And then once again we create, in this case, also a product. Sorry, let's double click this, product get DTO, because this is also a get request as we see here. Then it will be name, description, and price, which is okay. Then product DTO.supplier equals product.supplier, and product DTO. What's photo URL is missing, would be equal to product.photo URL. Okay, and then we return the new product DTO, the new product get DTO, and that should make it. And now we go to this create product, and in this case, as said, this is a post request. So here, what we expect from the body of the request is for sure a product put post DTO. So a product that would contain only 3 properties. So as we see here, would contain only name, description, and price. So yeah, in this case here, there isn't basically here anything else that we have to do, because we get the same information from the body. We create this product, we add the supplier and the photo URL, and so on. And here what I have to do for the product ID to work correctly in the location header is, of course, if I want to do it like this, I have to use string interpolation, and I guess now it should be probably fine. Okay, so then for the update product, it's exactly the same thing. We have from the body we receive a product put post DTO, so a product that contains only that 3 properties. And for the delete, we really don't have to change anything. So right now we can once again run this this application and try it out just a little bit. Okay, so here then we can go over to Postman. Let's first make a GET request for all the products, and it should return this list of 2 products. But as you see, they also contain the supplier and they also contain the photo URL, which is as said as expected. Then if we get only 1 product, so based on the ID, it's again correct. And let's now maybe try to create a new product. Let's make a post request. Let's go here to the body. Let's make some changes. So the supplier and the photo URL is something that we don't need to provide. And here we have to delete that one. Let's I don't know, add a new product, which would be, I don't know, a Dell XPS laptop, and this would be, I don't know, description great business laptop. And by the way, I don't have a Dell, so it's not a Dell from, or it is, oh it is, but it's not an XPS, sorry. And I don't know what would be the price for that. Let's make it 500.78, and let's create the new product. And method not yeah, of course, because the post is to the URL with products, not with product/1. And once again we receive 201 created. Let's check the location header, and you see that in this case the location header correctly displays this tree. So theoretically, why this header is important, because the client that makes the request would simply well, locate this header, copy over the URL, and if it needs to retrieve the product, it will simply, well, use it as a REST resource to send the request to. So it would do this thing. If we go to body, we see this information. Now a supplier was created, but all the properties are on their default values. So it's 0 for value types and null for reference types. And we see that it also has this URL. If we get once again a list of several products, but I'm not sure exactly why it creates. So this one was created only once. Okay, but it's kind of duplicates something. Whatever, it's because of the seeder, so something is wrong in the seeder, but that doesn't really concern us right now because we won't use the seeder for very long. So right now we see that we have implemented this part where basically we have different DTOs for get, erf, and for put and post. Now to be, however, to make things be kind of okay for further I would guess implementations that we will do, or features that we will add in the product get DTOs. Let's also return the ID. But of course, in this case, this product get DTO is exactly the same as the product DTO. So in a production environment, I wouldn't do that. But again, I just want for us to understand this whole concept of different DTOs based on the action that the client requests from us. So I will keep this product get DTO in this case. But for instance, right now, if I want to present all the information in the product, in the model, I could simply return it. But once again, let's keep this product get DTO to have this entire concept of DTOs and how they work based on different methods that they put. So in this case, we just need to go to the get methods, and the only thing that we would have to add here is dto.id equals product.id. This is the get all. So yeah, we have this DTO, and we also add this ID to the DTO. And in the get product by ID, also we want to have this product dto.id equals product.id, and that should be it. So right now, when we make a GET request, or when clients make a GET request, they would also receive the product ID, because that's an information that they will probably need in order to know further. If they want to get only one product, they need to know the ID of it. And then for the product, for the post and put DTO, we don't have ID, we don't have supplier, and we don't have a photo URL. As we see, supplier and photo URL and ID is something that we handle ourselves. So yeah, in this case, it's as simple as that. And I still want to go one step further on these DTOs, because DTOs are very, very important for another reason. And once again, before I go further, thank you very much for watching, first of all, and please feel free to drop questions if you have any questions, things that are not clear enough, things that might concern you, or that you think I did wrong or I should do differently. Please engage with me here in the Twitch chat. I will post a hello here so that you just know that I'm also here and I'm following the chat. And I really count on you asking all the questions that you really need to ask, or simply engaging or having a chat with me, not necessarily with questions only. Okay, so one thing that would be great, I just want to find out right now. I am basically streaming, and I'm located in Romania, but I would like to know where you are located. So if each of you can write in the chat the country where you currently are, it would really help me have a nice overview about people that are watching right now this stream. So yeah, please write in the chat. That would be great. It would be really nice for me to know, okay, in which countries my stream arrived. Okay, so I see that I have Romania. Thank you very much. I assume that probably most are from Romania, but I would guess that there might be also some viewers from different countries. So I'm still waiting, so you can still write here, but I will keep right now going with what I want to present next. Now, another very important thing that we have to take into consideration when we create APIs is validate data, and especially when clients want to post, or so to create resources, or to put or to update resources. We need really a way to make sure that those clients really provide us all the information that we need in order to perform that certain type of operation. And this means that we would probably need to set some validation rules, some restrictions on different properties. And let's go to this product post DTO. So when a client, a front-end application, would want to create a new resource, they would have to provide a name and description and the price. But the problem is, and maybe we can just test this out, because I really want you to see this first. So I will once again run the application, and I will start to, or I will try to create a new product. What I want to try is, let me go where I had this post. So yeah, this was the post. We have here a body. So what we want to post here. But for instance, it could be that, I don't know, we have something like that. So an empty string, and 0. Let's make the request, and we see that we still received the 201 created. So the problem is that the client, in this case Postman is the client, just created a new resource, but it didn't provide any information for that resource. And for me as the API owner, this is surely something that well, I have to try to defend against, because this would bring inconsistency in my API, in my product, and this is really not okay at all. So of course we have to, or we need ways to define or to say that okay, I don't know, some properties are required, some I don't know, need a minimum length. And also, for instance, let's do this. Let's basically have an empty object and make a request, and it's still 201 created. So in this case, we really made a request with no data at all. It's just an empty object, and still the API said 201 created, which means that it really created that product. And if we go right now to a get method, I suppose we should see a list with a lot of different products, but at least those that we created right now, they would probably have really everything on null. You see, null, 0, and so on. These are the products that were already there, but basically the client right now was able to create new products that are totally invalid and not usable for my application. And this is something that we would have to... Okay, so somebody wants to look in your Seeder class. So depending if you still work with seeders to seed databases, it's nothing like that. It's simply a class that it has some methods that it exposes to add a product, delete a product, get a list of products, which is hard coded here, and to update a product. So it's really nothing fancy. As I said, it's something that we just use temporarily in order to be able to make some calls to an API and to be able to see that well, we can really interact with that API. And I guess that most probably in the next episode, so next week, I guess we'll already start to implement a database with Entity Framework Core, and in that case we'll simply get rid of this Seeder class. So once again, it's really nothing fancy at all. Its main purpose of this was just to hard code some products that we can use in our API. It's not a real seeder that we would normally use to create dummy entries in a database when the database is empty. I hope it's okay. So yeah, let's go back to this whole idea with the information and validating the inputs. And still, if you'd like, I would be very happy if you could share the location from which you are watching. It would be very interesting for me to understand exactly where my audience resides. So coming back to this validation, okay, Puerto Rico. Oh, that's far away. What's the time, by the way, in Puerto Rico right now? I guess it must be fairly early in the morning. Oh, thank you very much for watching. Oh, 3 p.m. Okay, it's not okay. It's doable. Thank you very much for watching once again. Okay, so let's go back to this idea of validation. Fortunately, in ASP .NET Core, at least, well, for what we need in this API and for a lot of, I don't know, maybe APIs that are there for not very big applications, there is some infrastructure in ASP .NET Core that already helps us to achieve data validation out of the box, let's say. And this is called data annotations. What this means is that we can simply annotate the properties with some attributes. And for instance, it would be the attribute required. Of course, we would have to implement or have a using statement here. And in this case, what it happens is that, okay, this property right now is marked as required. And here, for instance, in description, we could also say that, okay, also the description is required. And we can also say for the price that also the price is required. Sorry, not price, but required. Okay, so yeah, it's required right now. So what this would happen right now out of the box, well, if we make the request, they will simply go through. But if we go to back our controller And here is where I want to introduce also a very cool feature of ASP.NET Core. And it interests me that if we go in this create, because it's right now it's about creating it's about creating a new product. So ASP.NET Core provides a model validation service and class that helps us to validate a DTO, so an incoming product in this case, against the attributes that we have defined previously. And this class or this validation mechanism is called model state. And out of the box, very simply, without the need to code anything else for by myself, I can say here if model state is valid. So if the model that I receive is valid, only then I want to execute this type of logic. So I'll take it from there and I'll paste it here inside. So only if the model state is valid, then we return all this. We perform our logic, so the logic doesn't change at all. And of course, if the model state is not valid, we can return bad request. And here we can write some information, provided model is not valid. And that's exactly the same thing that we can also do in the put method, because here we also use this product put post DTO. So what we'll do here is add also here this condition. So if model state is valid, only then what we want to do basically is move the entire logic that we had previously in this if statement.